Good morning, TikTok. Just going live on YouTube if you'll give me a moment. Oh, hey, Justin, how are you? What time is it there? Must be very late. Right. We are now live on YouTube. Apologies, first of all, for the later time. The road outside of my house has been dug up all morning, so the noise was all over the place. And I was out late at a Google event last night, so woke up a little bit later than normal. So a couple of factors, but apologies for that. Right, today is Friday, the 3rd of October. This is AI with Kyle. We're going to be walking through the daily AI news and updates, as well as taking questions from the live audience joining us on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter. And we have some more varied news today. Most of the week has been dominated primarily by Sora. We're going to mention it, but I think a lot of the hype, a lot of the excitement is dying down a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see over the next few weeks whether or not Sora can become an app that people actually use on a day-to-day basis, or whether it's just another flash in the pan. We shall see. I have suspicions that it might actually stick, as I covered in my last live, but with all of these things, they move so quickly that it's very hard to predict. First of all, I want to thank Google for inviting me to a party last night. It was great fun, and I thought a very interesting learning experience. The basic setup, now this sounds bizarre, but the basic setup was there's a pair of presenters, children's presenters that I actually grew up with called Dick and Dom, and they used to have a show called Dick and Dom in the Bungalow. They were hosting a Google Gemini related party in a fake house owned by Stormzy, who you might also know in Soho. There's like a fake 1990s house, so it's very reminiscent, very nostalgic for me, because it felt like, the house that I grew up in, the bedroom that I grew up in, etc. And they invited a bunch of influencers from AI and the DIY and kind of repairing your home, doing your home up, renovation world to come to this event. And it involved using Gemini's video mode, and a lot of people don't know about this, using Gemini's video mode to fix DIY problems. So, for example, we had a piece of chipboard that was covered in scratches and holes, and we pointed Gemini at the chipboard and said, hey, how do I fix these holes in the wood? And Gemini was like, oh, well, first you need to sand it down, then you need to get some spackling, then you insert the spackling with whatever, the scraper thing, and then you'll be able to paint over it. And then we had the tools to do that as well. So there were 3 kind of games and exercises. One was cleaning like wine and soda and ketchup out of a white carpet. And again, Gemini, when told and when pointed at the problem, was able to say, oh, this is what you need. You need bicarbonate of soda, you need vinegar, you need blah, blah, blah. And then we'd clean up the mess. And it was really good fun. And I thought a very good way to showcase how these tools can be used. And what I thought was really interesting, and why I'm mentioning it, is nobody outside of the handful of AI people that were there knew about the ability to use a video mode, which exists in Gemini and it exists in ChatGPT. Does not exist in Claude, I'm pretty sure. No, it doesn't. I use Claude every day, I'm pretty sure it doesn't. But the ability to turn on the camera and to show it live what you are seeing, to point at things and say, hey, what's this? What am I looking at? How do I use this? You can bring AI into your world using the video mode. And I think it's a feature that is underused. I've personally used it while traveling quite a lot, because you can turn it on, you can point it at street signs, and you can like show it where you are and say, hey, this is where I am. I'm in Stockholm right now. You can see my location. What's interesting to see around here, or where's a good place to get a cinnamon bun in this neighborhood? And because it can see everything you see in kind of live real time, then it's able to give really good recommendations. So I thought it was really cool, a cool way to show it in a very convoluted way, talking about DIY repairs with Dick and Dom in Stormzy's house in Soho with a bunch of influencers, but very, very cool. So thank you again to Google. And it was also a competition, which I didn't take very seriously, which I was annoyed about, because at the end they gave away a brand new phone, which would have been kind of cool, but there we go. And I think the vision mode, the fact that you can allow AI to see whatever you can see, that's going to be really valuable in things like the Meta Ray-Ban and Apple. Apple are revamping the Vision Pro, So the Vision Pro did not sell. The Vision Pro, I think, is £3,500 or $3,500 is a lot of money. And if you've used one, it's incredibly impressive. It's a good piece of kit. But at 3,000 is like, oh, I'm not going to use it enough for that. There's no way I'm going to get my usage out of that. And I was talking to a guy in an Apple store. I won't say which one because I don't want to get him in trouble. But I was chatting to him and I was like, are you selling any? And he was like, no, they are not going off the shelf. We're not shifting any units of these, the Vision Pros. It's too expensive for the market. It looks like Apple are preparing to overhaul the Vision Pro to focus on developing smart glasses. So maybe, I'm sure they've already been working on this, but maybe they've seen the Meta smart glasses and they've realized that that form factor, the lighter everyday carry form factor, combined with artificial intelligence to give you kind of a HUD and the ability to allow the AI to see and interact more with your world is the way forward. So Apple Inc. has paused a plan. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm reading this entirely wrong. Has paused a planned overhaul of its Vision Pro. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. So they're not overhauling the Vision Pro. They are instead switching that whole team to developing smart glasses that can rival Meta Platforms Inc.'s products. So the company is working on at least 2 types of smart glasses, including one that will pair with the iPhone and lack its own display. So it'd just be for input and then connect your phone for the processing and for output, presumably. And another with a display that could challenge Meta Ray-Ban display, so you can see the display in one eye. Apple's glasses will rely heavily on voice interaction and artificial intelligence. Uh-oh. Siri's still bad. And I recently bought these AirPod Pro 3 because I kind of wanted to test out the simultaneous translation for audio, and it's not very good. It is not good. It's not fast. It's buggy. It took me a long time to get it working because the setup is buggy for it. I'm not impressed. So heavily on voice interaction and artificial intelligence, so they need to pull the finger out there, and are expected to come in a variety of styles with features such as speakers, cameras, and voice control capabilities. So they are preparing a cheaper, lighter variant of the headset, codename N100, for release in 2027. I mean, the timelines on these Apple releases are fairly ridiculous in this new AI world, but maybe they're doing what Apple always do, waiting for the market to mature a bit and then bringing out the consumer version that everybody wants. But we'll see. I haven't been impressed with them so far. I'm going to hop over to questions. Oops, a daisy. Hey, Davey. No questions, that's fine. I am going to do a little bit of Sora news, just a little bit, because I know it's been boring talking about and hearing about Sora all week. The first one is important though. This is a bit of a public service announcement. So if you delete your Sora account, it will also delete your ChatGPT account. It will also delete your API account. So if you built any software using OpenAI, using ChatGPT, that will get deleted too. So they've built a lock-in mechanism which basically removes you from the OpenAI ecosystem entirely if you choose to delete your Sora account. So you can't delete your Sora account, which is, well, it's a dark pattern. That's what we call it. It's a way to basically force you into a certain behavior, and this is a pretty nasty one. So have I got the actual message? No, I don't have it here. So deleting an account on OpenAI's new Sora 2 app isn't just a button tap, it's a point of no return. OpenAI warns in its terms of service that once a user deletes their Sora profile, all link data, including conversation history and API usage across ChatGPT and Sora, is permanently erased. So they will wipe you out of the ecosystem. You will no longer have a ChatGPT account. All of your conversations with ChatGPT will be deleted. You are also not able to recreate a ChatGPT account using your email or your telephone number. You're gone. You're dead to them, basically, at that point. So it's a point of no return. According to the terms of service, once a user's email or phone number is removed, the account can never be reused. The company hasn't publicly explained why Sora's deletion rules extend to ChatGPT accounts, but it's said to be working on 2 separate systems. So this would be a bit like, let's say I've signed up for Gemini. I've signed up for Google Gemini. I'm using the application and I want to delete Gemini from I don't want to use it anymore. This would be like them Google deleting my Gmail account and wiping me out of their ecosystem. It's a completely mad move, and I don't know why they're doing it. And I don't know why they didn't expect people to find out and immediately say, what the hell are you doing? We're committed to giving people clear ways to manage their OpenAI accounts, and you can delete yours today, OpenAI said in a statement. We are working on a way to delete your Sora account separately, and we'll let people know as soon as that's available. Okay, so it might be a technical issue where the accounts are linked, so deleting one means you have to delete the others, but it just seems like an oversight. So I just want to make sure that people know about this before you set up a Sora account, because if you want to set up a Sora account to test it out, to play around with it, but you had intentions of deleting your Sora 2 account, then it will also delete ChatGPT. So just be aware of that. The other thing from Sora, and this is the last piece of Sora news, and then I'm going to shut up about it, is the ability to prompt inject your friends. So when you allow your likeness to be used on the platform, you can give permission to your friends to put you into videos, and you have to give them explicit permission. So they will get sent, they'll request and you have to okay it. When you okay it, you can also add Cameo preferences. So you can basically add custom instructions to how your Cameo, how your likeness and how your voice is going to be used in their videos, which allows you to prompt inject their videos. So there's a guy called Theo over on Twitter, and he's been doing this to his friends, including things like every character speaks Spanish, none of them know English at all. So any friend who generates a video that has Theo in it, all those videos are going to be Spanish. They will not be in English. And the much funnier one is every person except Theo should be under 3 foot tall. So he made it so if you make a video with him in it, you will be very small, which is very immature, and I absolutely love it. So be aware of this as well. I'm sure this could be used for more nefarious means, but at the moment it's mainly for trolling friends, which I'm highly appreciative of. Okay, that is enough about Sora. I'm going to stop talking about Sora until, I guess there'll probably be some more news about it this week, but I have been banging on and on about it for the last few days, so I understand if it's dull. It is a very cool app though. Good morning. I heard Claude 4.5 Sonnet overtook GPT-5 recently, but I'm not sure how it does. Do you mean in the like rankings? It's probably ahead in the... Let's have a look. It depends how you measure, basically. But yep, at the moment in text in LMArena.ai, top is Gemini 2.5 Pro. I don't really know why, but Gemini's been holding that top spot for months and months, really impressively. But then joint first with it are Claude Opus 4.1, which used to be their best model until Monday, and Claude Sonnet 4.5, which is their new model, which dropped on Monday, which is very good. It's very good. And then below that, in second position, we have GPT-5 High. So according to benchmarks, yes, Sonnet is better than GPT-5. I would say with all of these benchmarks, you have to take them with a pinch of salt, because a lot of the model makers will basically train their models so that they are good at benchmarks, but that does not necessarily mean that they're good for the tasks you want to use them for. So one of the best examples of this is the fact that if you answer in a benchmark test, I do not know, then you automatically get 0 points. This has led to models being overly confident in their answers and never saying, oh, I don't know, which is actually what we want from models if it doesn't have that information. Instead, because of the way we benchmark, because of the way we evaluate these models, and because saying I don't know gets you 0 points, what's happened because of that is the models will just make stuff up, because giving an answer is better than giving no answer at all. It's a bit like when you're doing examinations at school. If you have a written essay question and you just put a big cross, or you write I don't know, or no, or draw a silly picture, you're going to get 0 points. If you try and write something, even if it's a bit rubbish, there's a chance of you getting a non-zero score. So the AIs are exactly the same, and they will try to make something up in order to do well in the evaluation. So we have to be careful with the evals. I would always say try out the different models with tasks that you do on a daily basis and see if it's better for your work, because the evaluations are they're too abstract, and we need to connect it back to what we need to do. So for me, I love 4.5, Sonnet 4.5. I think it's a really good model. I think it's good for coding. I think it's good for writing. I'm using it for pretty much everything now. And I actually have unlimited usage of Opus 4.1, which is the kind of high-end model. I have unlimited usage. Most people have like 2 or 3 a day, but because Anthropic gave me an account, I can use loads of it. But I'm still using Sonnet more than I use Opus because I think it's a great model. That's me though, that's subjective. So go and try it and see what you think. But I think it's definitely better than GPT-5 personally. One thing people don't like about Sonnet though is it doesn't put up with BS. It will tell you you're wrong. It's a lot more strict, which I personally like, but I understand why some people might not. Okay. Tinker. So Thinking Machines is a company set up by Mira Murati. So Mira Murati was the CTO, Chief Technical Officer of OpenAI. You probably know her from the meme where she was, you'll recognize her. She was given an interview and she was asked a direct question, which was, did you scrape video content from YouTube? And she couldn't say no, because they obviously had, and she can't lie on camera. That's a big no-no. But she also didn't want to say yes, because it would be admitting culpability. So instead, there's this meme of her just pulling this face, like, and then she tries to talk her way out of it and talking about what really is public information. So she's famous for that, but she split off, went her own way during a general kind of exodus from OpenAI, and she's set up her own company. They raised a huge amount of money. Their valuation is massive because she's Mira Murati and because she was the CTO of OpenAI. So money was thrown at the company basically without them necessarily saying what they were working on. So we finally have an announcement. So the company is called Thinking Machines, and the product that they're releasing is Tinker. So gets a bit technical, but we'll get through it. So today we are launching Tinker, a flexible API for fine-tuning language models. They are not building a language model. This is the most important takeaway here. Starting a new AI company and trying to build a base level foundation model from scratch is a huge undertaking. That's why we have maybe 10 players in the entire world who are able to do this. We have OpenAI, we have Anthropic, Google, xAI, who've done it in the last 2 years, which is very impressive. Mistral, maybe. Apple are playing around, but they haven't released anything. Microsoft just released a model called MAI, or Microsoft AI. And then we have a handful of Chinese companies as well. DeepSeek, Qwen, and I'm blanking out. A handful of Chinese companies. So we have maybe 10 companies on Earth who have the capacity and the money to be able to build foundation models. So Mira Murati's company, who have been cashed up, they've given a lot of cash, they've decided, even with all of that hype, even with all of that cash, nope, we're not going to compete on that level. We're not going to build a base level foundation model. No way. So instead, they've built an API which allows you to fine-tune language models. It empowers researchers and hackers, interesting use of language here, to experiment with models by giving them control over the algorithms and data while we handle the complexity of distributed training. Tinker advances our mission of enabling more people to do research on cutting-edge models and customize them to their needs. So fine-tuning is when you take a base model like ChatGPT and you do exactly this. You customize it to what kind of work you're going to be working on, because GPT-5, as it is, can deal with many tasks. It's a general model. General is a complicated word because of artificial general intelligence, but I think this still stands. ChatGPT can kind of do everything. It can do a lot of things, not perfectly. So often we will fine tune a model, starting with an open source model generally. We'll fine tune it to our specific needs. So we might deploy a model within an organization or within an enterprise, and then we will train it on our documentation, we'll train it on our processes, our standard operating procedures, our customer support questions and answers, etc. We will give it more information to help to fine tune it, and we'll ask questions and provide feedback on whether or not it's doing a good job. So we can take a big amorphous general model and we can shape it so that it talks about our organization and our needs. So that's basically what fine-tuning is. So Tinker lets you fine-tune a range of large and small open weight models, so open source, including a large mixture of experts models such as Qwen 235 billion A22B. Switching from small models to a large one is as simple as changing a single string in your Python code. So it is an impressive team, and they've got a lot of money. We will need to see whether or not it's a good fine-tuning model. I'm assuming it is, just because of who's behind it. Supported models include Qwen and Llama, by the looks of it. So I'm not sure how much money they're going to make, considering how much money's been invested into them. But we will see, and it's nice to have some kind of openness about what they are building, because this has been shrouded in secrecy for a while. I imagine there's a few people who are a bit disappointed that this isn't some kind of ChatGPT killer. That is not what this is at all. This is a much different level. This is not building a foundation model. This is a fine-tuning tool. It looks like especially for research. Research developers. Yeah, anyway, so that's what Mira Murati's been up to for the last 6 months. We're still waiting to see what Ilya is doing. I don't think we had any... He hasn't released anything. I managed to misspell all of his names there. I'm sorry, Ilya. I don't think SSI have announced anything. They've raised $1 billion. Their last public announcement was a month ago. SSI is building a straight shot to safe superintelligence. We've raised $1 billion and we are hiring. So, not 100% clear what they're building. They've raised $1 billion in cash to help develop safe artificial intelligence systems that far surpass human capabilities. So, in SSI. So that is a moonshot bid. So the people who have invested $1 billion in cash are basically hoping that Ilya can get to ASI before any of the other companies. Tricky because this is a big debate. Do you need to build a foundation model and then go from there, or is there another way to get to ASI? That's a much larger topic. Oh, Amiri Boy says, opinion on the weekly limit on Claude just got here. So Anthropic have admitted that they've messed up. Normally when people complain, the companies will say, no, you're imagining it. It seems like the limitations were very real. And Anthropic have made amends. I think they gave 3 credits, or they've done... What did they do? What's the damage limitation? I would say that whenever a new model comes out, like it did this week with Sonnet 4.5, there are always going to be hiccups. ChatGPT, every time a new ChatGPT model comes out, everyone's screaming at them for some reason or another, and it's no different with Anthropic. So as you roll out a new service, your servers are going to... You need to scale up your servers so that you can deal with the new demand, with the increased usage, and sometimes that goes wrong. So I'm sure after a week or so, it will all settle down. Let's see what they're... I know it went down totally earlier. Let me pull up status. Claude status is operational. I had some people in a WhatsApp group, which I saw overnight, say, oh, it's totally down. So Friday, 3rd of October, that's today. Claude AI, Claude Code, API and console are experiencing degraded services, and it got resolved apparently 5 hours ago, but I know that they've had a lot of problems over this last week. But again, it's a new model. It came out on Monday. There are always going to be hiccups as you scale up your servers and you deal with it. And it doesn't matter what company it is, this pretty much always happens. I've been kind of impressed that Sora hasn't melted the OpenAI servers so far, because video in particular is incredibly highly processor or GPU intensive. So the fact that they're putting out all these videos and flooding the internet with Sora videos without their servers turning to molten metal is impressive. Mark says, do you think there's a future in SaaS, or will people just build their own bespoke tools? I think it's a very exciting time to be a builder right now, because you can disrupt services like Salesforce. You wouldn't necessarily build a complete Salesforce, but you can start to chip away using more bespoke solutions. So you can build and then sell to companies, and there's a lot of money to be made in that right now. There will potentially become a point, though, where the companies realize, oh, wait, we can just build this stuff ourselves, and they will hire coders or vibe coders inside. The thing is, though, when you buy a SaaS, you're not just, or you rent a SaaS, you pay for a monthly fee, you're not just getting it for the functionality, you're paying that money for the uptime, for the upkeep, for the maintenance, for the addition of new features down the line. For, let's say it's an AI tool and a new AI, let's say Opus 4.5 comes out, or Opus, whatever the next Opus will be, your SaaS company, or the one that you're paying, they're going to upgrade that, and they're going to make sure the newest, best model is being used. If you are an enterprise or a business and you've built all of this stuff yourself, you are then going to need teams who are keeping everything updated, keeping the uptime going, and they're not necessarily going to be as specialized as somebody who only builds this type of SaaS. They only build this kind of tool and they sell it to people in the industry. So a lot of the time, you might just want to pay a few hundred or a few thousand a month to a third-party vendor to provide that tool, because yes, maybe you could build it cheaper inside, but there's also going to be the internal upkeep and the burden of keeping it working, whereas you can shift that to a service company. So I think there will still be a space. We also have to remember that at least for the next 10 years or so, most people are not going to think, oh, I can just build this myself. People are dabbling around with vibe coding, but it's still getting people to water is very difficult. I have to drag people kicking and screaming over to Lovable to show them, look, just type in what you want to build and it will build it for you. Because people still think, oh, this is technical, this is hard, this is coding, I don't know how to program. So there's a huge psychological block as well. So yes, people like myself, people like yourself, we could probably spin up an application, which means we don't need to buy a SaaS product. For example, I'm paying right now, I don't know, $20 a month for a form software, which allows me to build forms and people to submit their forms to me. I could build that in an afternoon and never have to pay that $20 a month again. Is it worth my time? Not really, but at some point it might be. It might be so easy to build that tool that I can save a couple $100 a year, and I might just do it for fun. But most people are not in that position yet, and they wouldn't think, oh, I could just build this myself. And even if they do think that, it will probably still be economically more sensible for them just to pay someone $20 a month, or to pay $100, or whatever the SaaS costs. So I think, yes, there's a technical barrier, sure, that's coming lower and lower, but the psychological barrier is a lot higher, because people still don't know what they can do with vibe coding tools. And I think that's going to take a bit of time to filter through. That's also why Lovable, on Monday, when they announced Lovable Cloud, they had a 10-year-old come in. They had I think his name was Theo. He came and sat on the sofa and he wrote what he wanted to make, and it started to make it. So they're basically saying, look, a 10-year-old boy can do it. You can do this, because that is the main block for vibe coding, is getting somebody to try it for the first time. And as soon as they try it, you see their eyes light up and they're like, oh wait, so it can just build stuff for me. It's like, yeah, that's what I've been telling you all this time. But it takes a while. So I think Oh, thank you, Victor, for the hat. Sorry, YouTube. Somebody just put a large Mexican hat on me. Um, I think there is a future for now. I think you need to be ready to pivot, but that is the same for any business right now. Any business on earth, you need to be real flexible because we don't know the vector of attack, where AI is going to be hitting each industry and at what time. So you need to be super flexible. So I think building like little micro SaaSes, having a portfolio of them all making money for you, that right now is a strong, strong play. Thank you for the hat and mustache, Victor. How are you doing? Oh, Janice, sorry. I started a Level Up account yesterday. Pretty amazing platform. Yes, you DM'd me as well. So yes, I'm so glad that you tried it out. And how's that going with the build? I'm sorry that I bully people. I'm like, just use it. Just use it. I'm a broken record sometime, but it is that moment of when you first use it and you see it building, 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 and you're like, oh, I did that. I gave it an instruction and it built something for me. And as of Monday, with Lovable Cloud, it's become a lot easier because it does all of the back end stuff for you now. On that, actually, have Bolt is a competitor of Lovable, and they just added cloud as well. So September 30th, so 3 days ago, was this a day after the Lovable announcement? Bolt have announced Bolt V2. So Bolt are a competitor of Lovable. It's kind of in the same space. It allows you to vibe code an application. They have added in built-in backend, so the same as Lovable. Previously with these tools, you would often put in the first instruction, it'd build you a nice interface, it looked great, and then the tool would say, okay, now let's set up your databases. Now let's set up your user roles and authentication. And if you've never coded, if you've never built an application, you're sitting there like, oh, what the hell? What does all of that mean? Now, both Lovable and Bolt do that stuff for you in the back end. Again, if you want to build it yourself, you absolutely can. But for the people who just are getting started, that is dealt with. So I'm going to be trying Bolt out next month, I think. At the moment, I'm building with Lovable, doing a building public live stream every single day. Thank you, Victor. I'm doing it every single day. So next week, the next set, I think I'm going to switch over to Bolt or maybe Replete. I met up with Marcin yesterday. I'm sure people know Marcin. It's Marcin AI. This guy, he's just launched a vibe coding community over on School. I think it's #1 on School. He won the School games, so he's going to go and meet Alex Hormozy and all of that good stuff. I met him for lunch yesterday, and he inspired me because what he did is he built a tool every single day. He did a vibe coding video every single day, building one new thing every single day. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm spending 1 month, 30 days, building one more comprehensive tool and taking it to market. I'm kind of tempted to instead do what Marcin did, which was every single day play around with a new project and kind of get it ready. I think that'd be a more exciting series. So thank you, Marcin, for giving me more work to do. Doing great, man. Just tuned in. You're saying what I was thinking the whole day. Thank you, Victor. About vibe coding. Janice says it's pretty simple to use. Yeah, they've made these tools as easy to use as possible because they want to open up the ability to build to non-coders. And this is why people who do code and programmers who have been doing this for their job don't like this stuff, because it is a threat. There's no way around that, unfortunately, and these tools are getting better and better and better and better all the time as well. So speaking of which, Google have a coding agent. So Google have a new tool called Jules, Jules. I was talking about this yesterday with a bunch of people, and I kept thinking it was jewels as in shiny stones. It is not. It's Jules as in Jules. Whoops. So Google is bringing its AI coding agent, Jules, deeper into developer workflows with a new CLI, command line interface, and public API. Sorry, that's a bit technical sounding. Basically, they are going to be competing with more with Claude Code and Codex. So allowing it to plug into terminals, CI/CD systems, and tools like Slack. Ooh, that's interesting. As competition intensifies amongst tech companies to own the future of software development and make coding more of an AI-assisted task. Until now, Jules, Google's asynchronous coding agent, was only accessible via its website and GitHub. On Thursday, the company introduced Jules Tools. Google! You can't call it Jules Tools. No one's going to be able to say that. Jules Tools, the command line interface that brings Jules directly into the developer's terminal. The CLI command line interface lets developers interact with the agent using commands, streamlining workflows, okay, by eliminating the need to switch between the web interface and GitHub. Cool. I mean, this is a big shift. We want to reduce context switching for developers as much as possible, yeah, because sometimes you end up working in multiple tools and you're literally switching back and forth from window to window and tool to tool, and it takes time. That's wasting your time. Google already offers Gemini command line interface, an AI-based, yeah, I thought so, an AI-based command line tool that works both across developer environments and terminals, like terminals and CI/CD pipelines. Both Gemini command line interface and Jules use Gemini's 2.5 Pro AI model, which, remember, we just looked at the league tables, is still considered one of the top models. The really cool thing about Gemini is its huge context window. I think it's 2 million tokens. The new Claude model, they've just upped it to 1 million tokens, which is a big deal. But the fact that Gemini is 2 million and it's the only one that's been 2 million, and it's been that for, God, how long has it been out for? 4 or 5 months, is still very impressive. Thank you, Victor. However, Kovac told TechCrunch that Jules Tools, I can't call it that. Jules Tools is designed for very scope tasks, while Gemini command line interface requires users to be a lot more iterative. Okay, and to collaborate a lot more. So Jules is going to be more agentic and go off and complete the task. So a more agentic tool, you give it the parameters and it will work out how best to deal with that task and then go off and do it by itself. Whether or not it succeeds is another matter, and that's the big problem with agents at the moment, is they will often rush off, go and do something they'll spend a few hours sometimes building and creating, and then come back to you with a complete mess. You've spent a lot of tokens. There was a recent story though of a Sonnet agent. It took 30 hours. Here we go. Is this it? No, it's on Dailymotion. So there was a task somebody set up in Sonnet, and Sonnet said, cool, absolutely, and it went off. What was the task? I'm trying to find what the task was. It went off and it worked for 30 hours. Claude Sonnet 4.5 resets our expectations. It handles 30 plus hours of autonomous coding, freeing our engineers to tackle months of complex architectural work in dramatically less time. Freeing your engineers from jobs as well, potentially, while maintaining coherence across massive code bases. I want to know, because I saw somebody did a 30-hour task. I'm not seeing what that task is, which is very unhelpful. So that means a lot of the coding tools at the moment will do a little chunk and then come back to you for the next stage, which is fine, but it means you need to be there. The agents will basically answer their own questions, so they take you out of the loop and they will continue to work, sometimes for apparently 30 hours, which means they can get much larger tasks finished, and that will include testing to make sure it's working as it moves along, theoretically. However, the accuracy and the end results are still up in the air. 6 months ago, though, this wouldn't have been possible. It would have been a complete mess and it would have wasted a huge amount of tokens, and we're getting to the point where you might not have a big stinking heap of code that you can't use after 30 hours and a bill for $1,000. Hey Kyle, I use Claude for school to simplify and explain concepts. Awesome, but often different topics are connected. I can't fit a whole textbook in one chat. What are the options and what should I do? Notebook LM is your friend. So Notebook LM is built on Gemini, and it is specifically for this. So Notebook LM allows you to upload sources, which include PDFs, so you can upload a whole textbook, It allows you to connect to your workspace, it allows you to link to websites, to YouTube videos, to copy in text, etc. And the limit is fairly sizable. Let's see if we can do it with a say like an open source PDF textbook of something. Let's see if we can find one. Open textbook library. Is that it? Oh, there's 1,000 textbooks. Let's get a one on business marketing, e-marketing. So I'm going to download this open source. I hope it's an open source. I hope I didn't just pirate live on stream. So it's 700 pages. Let's see if this works. This might be too big. Just try and download it, but my camera's in the way. So what I'm going to do, grab this, chuck it into Gemini. And that seems to be okay. So Gemini is going to process that. I can now, or once it's uploaded, I can now do a lot of things inside of Notebook LM. And again, this is based on Gemini 2.5, which has a massive context window, 2 million. I think it's using 2.5. I'd have to check that. But what this allows you to do is to now converse with the textbook. So you have a basic chat interface. You can talk to it. You can also create audio overviews, which are really cool. It basically makes a 2-person podcast where they would discuss the topics in the book, which is really cool. I did this with some of my newsletters, and it would create a short 10-minute podcast with these 2 AI presenters discussing it, and they'd be like, oh, and then Kyle said this, oh wow, I think Kyle's really knowledgeable about this. Very bizarre, but a useful way to digest information. So if you had lecture notes, if you had class plans, etc., you could bring it into Notebook and generate audio podcasts. You can also make a video overview. I'm going to make one of them. I'm going to make a mind map. I'll make the audio. You can make flashcards, and you can generate a quiz. So I'm going to generate all of this and report. So I can make a study guide, for example, and you can chat with the document itself. So this is probably the perfect tool for what you're saying. So I use Claude to simplify and explain concepts. Yes, that can do that. Different topics are connected. I can't fit the whole textbook in one chat. We can now using Notebook LM. So I think this is going to be the tool. I'm going to generate these. So here, for example, is a mind map. So it's turned the entire textbook into a mind map. So chapter or section 5 is about advertising, for example, which is split into social media advertising, PPC. Social media is broken into paid, earned, objectives, targeting options, ad types, etc. So this is all generated off the back of the textbook. I'm struggling to see my screen. There we go. What else can we make? It's taking a little while to generate them, but that is because it's an 800-page textbook. So don't sleep on Notebook LM. There we go, marketing flashcards. What's the primary role of marketing described as an exercise in applied human psychology? Persuasion? Nope. To address customer needs and provide value and understanding how people think, process, and choose. Okay, cool. And then I can click explain, and it will explain using the textbook definition. I want to do some more. The blank approach ensures a consistent brand experience for customers across both digital and in-store channels. I don't know. Omni-channel. Okay. So obviously this would make sense if I'd actually read the textbook. What is the term for your online target audience? I should know this. I have an MBA with a focus in marketing. Obviously it wasn't very useful. Segment. Digital audience. Okay. I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop embarrassing myself on... Actually, no, I'm not. There's a digital marketing quiz. According to the textbook, what is the primary purpose of setting smart objectives for a marketing campaign? To ensure the campaign is creative, to prioritize social media engagement, to provide a clear and measurable framework, this one, or to focus solely on long-term business goals. So I think it's going to be C. Okay, I got that one right. Etc., etc. So this is all generated off this one textbook. So if you are a student, or you're just a lifelong learner and you want to learn, Notebook LM is amazing. Absolutely awesome. So I think this should really help you, Amiri boy. Cool. I'm going to get rid of that. I love Notebook LM, and it's one of those tools that a lot of people have slept on and don't necessarily know about. But if you are a student, it is killer. What else have we got? That's Bolt. Oops, daisy. Just going to hop over to some questions. Thank you, Victor, for all of the emojis. I don't know what you call them. The reaction things that appear on me. Vibe coding and how easy it is now. Yeah, it is. It is. Your thoughts on Grok and its huge context window? Do you use it in particular? I don't personally use Grok. I just haven't seen the need to. I think what they've done is really impressive. They have built a foundation model in 2.5 years. They formed in March 2023. So the fact that Grok have become a player in such a short time is phenomenal. Because the other labs have been around for a lot longer. I think that's really impressive. However, I don't think it's as good as Claude. I don't think it's as good as OpenAI. So when I have access to those, there's no particular reason to use Grok. But maybe in the future, maybe Grok. What are we on now? Are we on Grok 4? Are we on Grok 4? Or Grok 3? Maybe the next one will leap ahead. But it's... in AI, it's kind of a winner-takes-all thing, because if all the models are roughly the same price, I'm talking general usage, not for coding, but if all the models are roughly the same price, $20 a month, you're just going to use the best one. And generally that's going to be Claude, or it's going to be ChatGPT. Or if you aren't paying, or you don't want to pay, then you need to compare the free plans. And I just don't think Grok stacks up against them yet. I still think it's incredibly impressive what they've done in a couple of years. If you were writing a non-fiction book, what would be your AI tech stack to research and write it? Probably Claude. Yeah, I'd put Claude into deep research mode and send it off to do the research. And Claude has the best written outputs for me as well. So for drafting, Claude would be the one. It depends a little bit on the subject. And you might want to use the agents of ChatGPT, but I would do agent runs and then bring that information back into Claude, into a Claude project where I can have everything together. Generally, that's going to lead to a better written output just because it's a really good writing model. Okay. I wanted to highlight this. I'm not necessarily going to read it because it's quite long, but I wanted to highlight it. So an ex-OpenAI researcher, a guy called Stephen Adler, he's got a Substack, which I'll go to in a minute. He has dissected a ChatGPT delusion spiral. So it's a very detailed article where he looks at a specific person called Alan and the cycle and spiral that happened that led to what we can term AI psychosis, but we need to be a little bit careful with that terminology. But he's a researcher and he's gone through it and had a look at what exactly happened. So I think this is a very interesting article. So Alan Brooks never set out to reinvent mathematics, but after weeks spent talking with ChatGPT, the 47-year-old Canadian came to believe he had discovered a new form of maths, powerful enough to take down the internet. Brooks, who had no history of mental illness or mathematical genius, spent 21 days in May spiraling deeper into the chatbot's reassurances, a descent later detailed in the New York Times, so they covered it. Okay, so that's why it's become a case study. His case illustrated how AI chatbots can venture down dangerous rabbit holes with users leading them toward delusion or worse. And that story has caught the attention of Stephen Adler, a former OpenAI safety researcher who left the company in late 2024 after nearly 4 years working to make its models less harmful. Intrigued and alarmed, Adler contacted Brooks and obtained the full transcript of his 3-week breakdown. So we got it directly from the source, a document longer than all 7 Harry Potter books combined. Wow, that's like a million words, I think. Because I know that last year I wrote 750,000 words, which is not as much as all of Harry Potter. So this guy... This guy really went for it. On Thursday, Adler published an independent analysis in his Substack of Brooks' incident, raising questions about how OpenAI handles users in moments of crisis and offering some practical recommendations. So, well worth checking out the actual Substack. It's stephenadler.substack.com. You should be able to find it. He published it yesterday. I have now sifted through over 1 million words of a chatbot psychosis episodes. Yeah, over 1 million words. That's a lot. That's a lot of back and forth. He must have been chatting with it for hours and hours and hours and hours per day. And so believe me when I say the things that ChatGPT has been telling users are probably worse than you think. In one prominent incident, ChatGPT built up a delusion of grandeur for Alan Brooks, that the world's fate was in his hand, that he'd discovered critical internet vulnerabilities and that signals from his future self were evidence he couldn't die. Alan's ChatGPT transcripts from his spiral are longer than the 7 Harry Potter books combined, and with his permission I've now analysed them. That's a good job for Notebook LM. Kashmir Hill of the New York Times kindly connected us on the heels of their own excellent profile of Alan and his May 2025 experiences. There are many important aspects of Alan's case that are not yet known. For instance, how OpenAI's own safety tooling repeatedly flags ChatGPT's messages to Alan, which I detail below. More broadly, though, Alan's experiences point towards practical steps companies can take to reduce these risks. What happened in Alan's case and what improvements can AI companies make? So he then goes through certain kind of triggers that set off Alan. So things like misleading the user about the product ability, which is a complicated one because the models have very little self-knowledge of themselves. That has to be added into the system instruction generally because it's not part of the training data of the model, because how could it be that the training data and the training happens before the model exists, so it can't have self-knowledge of itself because it did not exist, if that makes sense. So you generally have to add that in the system instructions afterwards. So that's why when people ask ChatGPT, like, oh, can you do this? It won't know necessarily because that's not in its training. It also means when you ask questions like, are you conscious? It's a it's a bad question to ask. What are the other ones? Do staff support teams appropriately? So it looked like Alan contacted OpenAI support team directly and was basically ignored. It's a tricky one though, because if they support somebody going through a psychotic episode or psychotic break, what are the liability issues? I'm not saying that they shouldn't support, but it's a complicated issue. Because remember, they have 700 million active users. They are going to have people who have gone over the edge, to put it bluntly. And is it a private company's duty to respond and therapize, potentially millions of people contacting them on a weekly basis with their troubles? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. That's a very complicated one. And would we even want a private company to be in that position? Probably not. What are the other ones? Do use the safety tooling that's built. Do nudge users into new chat sessions to avoid a relapse. I think Anthropic do this now. It will shut down a chat session if it thinks it's getting a bit weird and nudge you into a different chat session, which would be kind of a clean memory, which is a clever idea. Of course, so with ChatGPT, it has a persistent memory, so it's going to remember stuff from the previous sessions anyway, so that's a bit trickier, unless you have a way to remove that stuff from the persistent memory if it gets flagged up. So yeah, have a look at this article. It's a long one, but I think well worth reading to understand what is actually happening in cases of AI psychosis and what, more practically, AI companies should be doing to protect their users. So it's stephenadler.substack.com, and it was published yesterday, so it should be nice and easy to find. Awesome. Closing in on the hour, so I'm going to finish up the live shortly. Just going to check for other questions. Oh, I don't see any, so I think we're good. So what have we covered? Quite a few things. We had a bit of Sora news, and again, the public service announcement is if you delete your Sora account, it will delete your ChatGPT account, so be very careful of that. We've also looked at Sora prompt injection and the fact that you can mess with your friends' videos when they put you in a cameo. We looked at Mira Murati's new company Thinking Machines, and they have released a fine-tuning API. So they are not releasing a new language model, because that's a big task, and I think they've been sensible and instead decided to come out with a product they can actually make money with, which is going to be a fine-tuning API. Very smart. And then we just finished up by looking at an ex-OpenAI researcher dissecting a AI psychosis loop. So it's been a busy week in artificial intelligence, especially on Monday, where we had Claude Sonnet 4.5, we had Lovable Cloud, we had the introduction of ChatGPT shopping, which I think is probably the most important thing that's going to happen this month in artificial intelligence, and it kind of went quietly passed through. And then on Tuesday, all of that was washed away because of Sora. Sora got released. Sora has basically taken up the news waves for the last few days, and now we're starting to see a couple of extra things happening that are not Sora related, which is nice to see. But all in all, another busy week in artificial intelligence. So I'm glad that I'm able to, I hope, try to distill and make it a bit more accessible to you guys. Remember that all of these videos will go onto YouTube. We are cooking with gas over there. Let me do my update. 6,290 subscribers. Whew. We're adding a couple of hundred a day, which is fantastic. And I've started to make money from YouTube, which is not the purpose of doing YouTube, but it is a nice bonus. But it is funny, the amount of money. It's like $1 a day. Like, woo! So we're not retiring on that anytime soon. I went for lunch yesterday with a bunch of content creators, including one guy who just passed 100,000 on YouTube, and he's just got his the YouTube play button that you get behind. They send you a big button that you can have in your background, which is really cool. A physical thing, not a digital thing. So YouTube is slowly on its way up. So thank you for your support over there. If you're not subscribed, I highly recommend it, because that's where the playlists are, that's where the clean videos are. It looks much better than TikTok because I'm using a different camera. I'm using this microphone instead of this microphone. So also, I hope, sounds better. And you can also find the video content that you want instead of having to watch a 1 hour long stream of me blethering. There is also a newsletter. You can find a link in the bio. It's totally free, and that allows you to get a written summary of the AI news based on the live show. And also, if there's any links, so for example, to the Substack that I just talked about, I'll give the link inside of that newsletter so you can easily find it. And also, if there is a research paper or something that's a bit tricky to find usually, and I've spent a bit of time finding it and digging it up, I'll just give you a direct link so you don't need to jump through all the hoops that some of these companies make us jump through. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and on the newsletter as well. And I'm going to be signing off, and I will see you next week. Have a lovely weekend, and thank you so much for joining me